There is a white powder sitting in the clay aisle of your pottery supply store right now, and in the paint section of your hardware store, and mixed into the face masks at the spa down the street that professional organic orchardists have been using for decades to keep insects off their crops without a single drop of pesticide. It is not a new invention. It is not a fringe idea. The USDA developed and tested it. It is certified by the Organic Materials Review Institute, which is the gold standard for what is allowed in certified organic food production. It works on aphids, Japanese beetles, cucumber beetles, thrips, stink bugs, grasshoppers, codling moths, squash vine borers, and dozens of other pests. It does not kill them. It does something more interesting than that. And a bag large enough to cover a home garden for an entire season costs somewhere between $15 and $25, which works out to about $3 per gallon of spray. It is called Kaolin clay. And the reason almost nobody in the home garden world knows about it is that there is no recurring revenue model in it. You buy one bag, it lasts you multiple seasons, it does not expire, and you never need to buy it again at the same rate you buy a bottle of something with a skull on the label. That is a bad business, so it does not get marketed. And the people who do know about it, commercial organic orchardists, USDA researchers, university extension programs, are not exactly spending money on YouTube ads. Here is what it actually is. Kaolin is a naturally occurring mineral clay, a type of aluminum silicate that has been mined and used by humans for thousands of years. It is the base material in porcelain and fine ceramics. It is used in paper production, paint, rubber, and cosmetics. The name comes from the Kaolin Hill in China, where it was first formally mined. And records from China as far back as 2000 BCE describe the application of mineral dusts to crops to control insects. Ancient Egyptian and Chinese farmers used mineral dusting on plants centuries before anyone had a word for pesticide. Animals figured it out before people did. Birds and mammals take dust baths instinctively to disrupt parasites on their skin. This is not a new idea. What is relatively new is the formal understanding of exactly why it works, and the development of a refined agricultural formulation that makes it practical to spray at scale. The modern version of this was developed in the late 1990s by researchers at the USDA, specifically Drs. M. Glenn and G. Puterka, working with what became the product called Surround WP. What they discovered was that kaolin clay, when milled to a specific particle size and processed a particular way, could be mixed with water and sprayed onto plants where it would dry into a continuous fine white film. And that film does something that no chemical pesticide does, because it does not operate chemically at all. It operates physically. When an insect lands on a plant coated with kaolin, several things happen simultaneously. The clay particles are irritating to the insect's body. They clog sensory organs. They stick to legs and wing surfaces and force the insect into compulsive grooming behavior. Researchers have documented that insects spend so much time trying to clean the clay off themselves that they simply abandon the plant when leave. Beyond the irritation, the white reflective film disguises the plant. Insects that navigate by visual cues and by the scent signature of host plants cannot properly identify what they have landed on. The leaf looks wrong. It smells different through the clay coating. The insect gets confused, fails to recognize a feeding or egg-laying site, and moves on. No poison, no nervous system disruption, no death of the insect. It simply does not stay. That last part matters for a reason most people do not think about. Broad-spectrum chemical pesticides kill indiscriminately. They kill the Japanese beetle on your tomato plant, and they kill the ground beetle that was eating the Japanese beetle's eggs. They kill the aphid and the ladybug that was managing the aphid population. They destroy the web of beneficial insect activity that a healthy garden depends on. Kaolin does not do this. Because it is a physical deterrent rather than a poison, beneficial insects that do not behave the way pest insects do, that do not land, probe, and attempt to feed on the coated surface, are largely unaffected. Studies have confirmed that honeybee activity on kaolin-treated plants is not significantly disrupted. The bees arrive, find the flowers, pollinate, and leave. The pests experience the barrier. The pollinators do not. The USDA also documented something nobody expected when they started this research. Kaolin clay does not just repel insects, it also reflects infrared light. The white film on treated plants acts like a sunscreen, reducing heat stress in the plant canopy by measurable amounts, improving photosynthesis efficiency, and in some trials, increasing yields noticeably. An orchard that is being protected from plum, curculio, and codling moth with kaolin spray is simultaneously being protected from summer heat stress. The apples come out cleaner, more uniformly colored, and better developed than untreated trees. This is a pest control that makes the plant healthier while it works. That is not something you can say about a systemic insecticide. The pest list that kaolin has been studied against is long enough to be genuinely surprising. Japanese beetles, which cause around $600 million in damage to American gardens and turf every year. Cucumber beetles, which spread bacterial wilt and can collapse a cucurbit planting in a matter of weeks. Codling moth, the maggot inside your apple. Plum curculio, which deposits eggs in developing stone fruit and causes the scarred, rotted drops that organic orchardists used to consider nearly unavoidable east of the Mississippi before Surround became available. Thrips, aphids, stink bugs, grasshoppers, leaf rollers, scilla on pears, olive fruit fly, blueberry maggot, squash vine borers, Colorado potato beetle, and more. It also has documented effects against powdery mildew. The range of problems one mineral addresses is not typical of anything else in the garden aisle. Now here is exactly how to use it, because this is the part that determines whether it works. The product to search for is Surround WP, which stands for wettable powder. That is the formulation developed from USDA research and the one with the most documented efficacy. A 25-pound bag runs between $40 and $60 depending on where you buy it. Search for it online, at farm supply stores, or through organic farming retailers. That bag will cover roughly half an acre to a full acre at standard application rates, which for a home garden means you will be using this bag for several seasons. When you break it down per gallon of spray, you are paying around $2 to $3 per gallon. If you find a 5-pound bag for a smaller purchase, that runs about $10 to $15 and covers a typical home garden plot for an entire season. To mix it, you do not just dump powder into water and start spraying. The clay settles fast, and a poorly mixed suspension will clog your sprayer and coat unevenly. The correct method is to put roughly half your water volume in the sprayer first, then add the clay slowly, about 1/4 to 1/2 pound per gallon, which is roughly 1 to 3 cups depending on how precise you want to be, and shake vigorously for 30 seconds. Then add the rest of the water and shake again. Keep agitating the sprayer every few minutes while you spray because the clay will settle in the tank. This is not optional. A sprayer that sits for 5 minutes without being shaken will have concentrated clay at the bottom and plain water at the top, and you will coat your first plants heavily and your last plants with nothing. When you apply it, coat everything, both sides of leaves, stems, the fruit itself if it is present, and the growing tips. The film needs to be visually white on the plant's surface. If you cannot see a white coating, you have not applied enough. It should look like the plant has been lightly whitewashed. That is correct. That is the point. On fruit that you will be eating, this washes off at harvest with ordinary water. It does not penetrate into the plant. It is not absorbed. It sits on the surface, doing its job, and then washes away. Reapply every 7 to 10 days in dry conditions, and immediately after any significant rain. Rain is the main thing that removes the barrier, and a plant that loses its coating because of a storm and does not get resprayed in the following day or two is an unprotected plant. The timing of applications also matters. Start before you see pests, not after an infestation is already established. Kaolin is a preventive tool and a deterrent. It disrupts the behavior of insects searching for a host plant. If an insect has already found your plant, already fed, already laid eggs, kaolin applied after the fact is less effective because the insect already knows where it is and why it was there. Apply early in the season, build up a good coating with 2 or 3 applications in the first week, then maintain with weekly reapplication. One honest note before you go. Kaolin clay is not a complete solution for every pest in every scenario. It is highly effective against pest insects that navigate by sight and scent and need to probe and assess a surface before feeding. It is less effective against insects that are already deep in the soil or that bore through bark before the coating can contact them. And it will not clean up an infestation that is already severe and well established. It is prevention and early season management. Pair it with crop rotation, healthy soil, beneficial insect habitat, and good garden hygiene, and it becomes part of a system that does not need to reach for a chemical solution. That is the actual goal. Not finding a natural substitute for a poison, but building a garden that does not need to be poisoned in the first place. The pesticide industry in the United States generates tens of billions of dollars a year. A significant fraction of that comes from home garden products. Sprays, concentrates, dusts, sold season after season to gardeners dealing with the same recurring pest problems year after year, on plants that are being weakened by the same chemicals that are also killing the beneficial insects that would otherwise keep those pest populations in check. That cycle generates revenue. A bag of white mineral powder that you buy once and reuse for 3 seasons does not generate revenue, which is why one of those things has a 40-foot display at the garden center and the other one requires you to find out about it in a video like this. The oldest insect control method documented in human history is a mineral dust on a plant. China was doing it 4,000 years ago. The USDA confirmed why it works and made it better. The organic farming world has been using it quietly for decades. And A 25-pound bag of it is sitting in a warehouse somewhere right now, waiting to be shipped to your door for less than the cost of 2 bottles of whatever you used last season. Now you know, and you won't forget it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.